Commander Jun Kim stood frozen on the bridge of the Earth Alliance flagship Indomitable. His eyes were fixed on the large screen in front of him. The image showed a being that was clearly not human. It had silver skin that seemed to shine under its own light. Its head was slightly too large, and its smile revealed too many teeth to be comfortable. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect Korean, which the ship's computers translated for everyone else. "I am High Commissioner Xylox of the Galactic Confederation. We have been watching your species for some time now." The bridge went completely silent. This was it, the moment humans had wondered about for centuries. First contact with alien life. Jun felt his heart beating hard in his chest. He had trained for many situations, but not this one. No one had. "Your resilience, adaptability, and competitive spirit have impressed many members of our confederation," Xylox continued. His long fingers moved in a graceful pattern as he spoke. "Therefore, we would like to extend an official invitation to Earth to participate in the 457th Galactic Games." Someone on the bridge dropped a tablet. The clatter echoed in the silence. Jun blinked several times. "Galactic Games?" he asked, not sure if the translation was correct. Xylox nodded, his large eyes blinking slowly. "Yes. The Galactic Games have been our civilized method of establishing species hierarchy for over 20,000 years. Your performance will determine Earth standing in the Confederation." Lieutenant Han Sunwoo moved closer to Jun. "Sir," she whispered, "are they inviting us to some kind of Space Olympics?" Jun didn't answer. He was still trying to process everything. Aliens were real. They had a civilization that spanned the galaxy, and they wanted humans to compete in games? "The games begin in 3 of your Earth months," Xylox said. "We will send transport ships to collect your delegation. We suggest you select your finest athletes across various disciplines. We await your delegation's arrival on Nexus Station." The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one on the bridge moved or spoke. Then everyone started talking at once. Was that real? Did we just get invited to space sports? How do they know Korean? Jun raised his hand and the chatter stopped. "Send a message to Earth's United Planetary Council. They need to see this immediately." 3 weeks later, Jun stood in a large hangar watching Earth's newly formed delegation prepare to depart. The UPC had moved with surprising speed. They had assembled a team of 20 of Earth's top athletes, representing different sports and countries. Leading the delegation was Tai Ji-won, a former Olympic champion in Taekwondo. She was short but strong, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had won 3 gold medals before retiring to teach. When the UPC called, she had agreed immediately. "This is the chance of a lifetime," she had told reporters. "How could I say no to representing Earth?" Now she stood with the other chosen athletes. There was Dae Min-jae, a powerlifter who could lift 3 times his body weight. Yoon Ji-hye, who had won ultramarathons on every continent. Park Hyun, a mixed martial arts champion who had never lost a match. The aliens had sent a transport ship, as promised. It was sleek and silver like Xylox's skin, and it hummed with an energy that made the air feel electric. Jun approached Ji-won as the team prepared to board. "The UPC has asked me to give you a message," he said. Ji-won looked up at him with calm eyes. "Let me guess. Don't embarrass Earth? Make humans look good?" Jun nodded. "Basically. Remember, we're not just competing, we're representing our entire species. This could determine how aliens see humans forever." "No pressure," Ji-won said with a small smile. "The scientists have studied the message from Xylox carefully," Jun continued. "They think these games might not just be for fun. The way Xylox talked about species hierarchy suggests that our performance could affect our standing in this confederation. So we need to win," Ji-won said. "It wasn't a question. We need to make a good impression," Jun corrected. "Show them what humans can do." Ji-won nodded seriously, but her eyes held a mischievous look. "Don't worry, Commander. We'll show them what humans are made of." An alien emerged from the transport ship. It wasn't Xylox, but a different being with blue skin and 4 arms. It raised one hand in greeting. "Earth delegation," it said in that same perfect Korean. "I am Quillax, your guide to Nexus Station. Are you prepared to depart?" Ji-won stepped forward. "We are ready." "Excellent," Quillax said. "Please board. The journey will take approximately 7 Earth days." The athletes picked up their bags and started walking toward the ship. Reporters took pictures and shouted questions, but the team had been briefed to stay quiet about the details. As Ji-won walked up the ramp, she turned back to look at June. "Any last advice?" June thought for a moment. "Be yourselves. But also, be careful. We know nothing about these aliens or their games. Keep your eyes open." Ji-won nodded. "We will." Inside the ship, the human delegation found comfortable quarters prepared for them. There were beds that seemed to adjust to each person's body, food that tasted like home cooking, and entertainment systems loaded with Earth media. "They've studied us closely," Park Hyun noted as he tested his bed. "This is exactly how I like to sleep." "That's both impressive and a little creepy," Min-jae said. Quillax showed them around the ship. There was a training area where they could keep in shape during the journey, a medical bay with equipment designed for humans, and a viewing deck where they could see the stars as they traveled. "Your species has not yet developed faster than light travel," Quillax said. "This will be your first experience with it. Some species find the first jump unsettling." "What do you mean by unsettling?" Ji-hee asked. The answer came when the ship prepared for its first jump. A voice announced a countdown in Korean, and then the stars outside the viewing window seemed to stretch like rubber bands. There was a moment when everyone felt like they had turned inside out, and then everything was normal again. Except the stars were different. Half the humans were on the floor, feeling sick. The other half were gripping whatever they could hold, their knuckles white. "That was interesting," Ji-won said, the first to recover. She helped Min-jae to his feet. "I'm sure we'll get used to it." During the journey, the humans tried to learn more about the Galactic Games from Quillax. "How many species compete?" Ji-won asked during a meal. "This year there will be 73 species represented," Quillax answered. "You are the newest addition." "What kind of events are there?" Hyun asked. "Many kinds. Tests of strength, speed, endurance, intellect, and combat prowess." Hyun perked up at the last one. "Combat? What are the rules?" "Each event has its own rules," Quillax said. "The complete rulebook will be provided when we reach Nexus Station." As the ship traveled through space, the humans trained hard and tried to prepare for what was coming, but there was no way they could truly be ready for what awaited them. On the final day of the journey, Quillax called them to the viewing deck. "We are approaching Nexus Station. You may wish to see this." The humans gathered at the windows and gasped in unison. Ahead of them was a structure so vast it seemed impossible. It looked like a giant spinning wheel in space, with lights of every color twinkling across its surface. Ships of all sizes moved around it like bees around a hive. "This is Nexus Station," Quillax said with pride in his voice. "Home of the Galactic Games and the center of the Confederation. Welcome to your first step into the wider universe." As the ship drew closer to the station, Ji-won felt a mix of excitement and fear. They were about to represent humanity in a contest they knew nothing about against species they had never imagined. She looked at her team, seeing the same emotions on their faces. "Remember why we're here," she said. "No matter what happens next, we show them what humans can do." The ship docked with a gentle bump, and a new voice came over the speakers. "Earth delegation," it said. "Welcome to the 457th Galactic Games." Nexus Station was bigger than any city on Earth. It spun slowly in space, creating gravity for the thousands of beings that lived there. As the human team stepped off the ship, they could only stare in wonder. "This way, please," Quillax said, using all 4 of his arms to guide them through the crowded arrival area. Ji-won tried not to stare at the many different aliens around them, but it was hard. Some had multiple limbs like Quillax, Others floated instead of walked. One group looked like walking trees with eyes in their trunks. "Are those all different species?" Minjay whispered, his eyes following a being that seemed to be made of blue. "Smoke." "Yes," Quillux answered, his hearing better than they expected. Nexus Station is home to representatives from over 200 species. 73 will compete in the games. The humans stayed close together as Quillux led them through wide hallways. The walls were made of a clear material that showed the stars outside. The floors glowed softly, lighting up under their feet and then fading after they passed. Other aliens stopped to look at the humans. Some pointed. Others made sounds that might have been whispers or laughs. "They're staring at us," Jihi said, feeling uncomfortable. "Of course," Quillux replied. "You are the newest species to join the games. There is much curiosity about humans." They arrived at a large door that opened by itself. Inside was a comfortable living space with beds, chairs, and what looked like a kitchen area. "These are your quarters during the games," Quillux explained. "The food station is programmed with Earth recipes. The sleeping areas adjust to your comfort needs. The cleaning facilities are through that door." Park Hyun walked to a large window that showed a view of the station's central area. Below them was a massive arena surrounded by seating for thousands. "Is that where the games happen?" he asked. "That is the main arena," Quillux said. "Some events take place there. Others require special environments and are held in other parts of the station." Jiwon sat down in a chair that molded itself to fit her body perfectly. "When do the games begin?" "The opening ceremony is tomorrow," Quillux said. "Tonight there are traditional pre-game rituals that many species attend. You are welcome to join, or you can rest and prepare." "What exactly are these games?" Jihye asked. "What kind of events will we compete in?" Quillux blinked all four of his eyes in sequence. "The games test many attributes: strength, speed, endurance, intellect, and combat skills. Each species typically excels in different areas." Hyun perked up at the mention of combat. "Combat? What are the rules for that?" "Rules vary by event," Quillux said. "The complete rulebook is available on your information devices." He pointed to a stack of thin tablets on a table. "I should warn you, it is quite extensive. 12,378 pages in your language." The humans exchanged shocked looks. "That's a lot of rules," Minjay said. Quillux nodded. "The games have existed for over 20,000 years. Rules have been added with each new competition. I will return tomorrow to escort you to the opening ceremony. Rest well." After Quillux left, the humans gathered around the tablets. 378 pages, Jiwon said, shaking her head. "We can't read all that before tomorrow." "We don't have to read all of it," Hyun said. "Just the parts about our events." They each took a tablet and began to read about the events they would likely compete in. Jihye focused on endurance events, Minjay on strength competitions, Hyun on combat, and Jiwon on tactical events. After an hour of reading, Minjay looked up with wide eyes. "Guys, I think I found something interesting," he said. "The strength competition rules don't specify how you have to lift the weights. They just say you have to move them from one platform to another." "What do you mean?" Jiwon asked. "I mean, nothing says I have to lift them straight up," Minjay explained. "I could use leverage or roll them or use any method as long as I get them to the right spot." Jihi was studying her own tablet. "I found something similar in the endurance trial. There's nothing that says you can't draft behind other competitors like cyclists do on Earth." The more they read, the more loopholes they found. The rules were incredibly detailed in some areas, but vague in others. It was as if the aliens who wrote them never considered that someone might try to bend the rules without breaking them. "This is good," Jiwon said. "We might not be the strongest or fastest species here, but humans are very good at finding creative solutions to problems." They worked through the night, each person searching for any advantage in their events. As the station's artificial day cycle began again, Hyun made an interesting discovery. "Everyone, look at this," he said, pointing to his tablet. "This is the section on prohibited tactics in combat events. It lists everything from energy weapons to poison, but nowhere does it say biting isn't allowed. The team gathered around to see for themselves. Are you sure? Ji-won asked, reading the screen. That seems like a basic thing to prohibit. It's not here, Hyun insisted. There are rules against clawing if your species doesn't naturally have claws, rules against using venom unless it's naturally produced by your body, but nothing about teeth or biting. Maybe the aliens don't bite each other in fights, Ji-hee suggested. Maybe it's so obvious to them that no one would do it that they didn't think to write it down. They all thought about this. On Earth, biting in a sport fight would be against the rules and considered dirty fighting. But here, among species with all kinds of natural weapons, maybe it wasn't so obvious. Are we really considering this? Ji-hye asked, looking uncomfortable. Ji-won was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had found an unexpected advantage. We're representing Earth against species that have evolved on worlds we can't imagine, she said. Some of them probably have natural advantages we can't even understand yet. We use every advantage we've got. Before they could discuss it further, their door opened and Quillux entered. Good morning, Earth delegation, he said. It is time. To prepare for the opening ceremony, each species will present themselves according to their cultural traditions. As they followed Quillux through the station, they saw other alien teams heading in the same direction. Some wore elaborate outfits that sparkled or changed colors. Others wore nothing at all, their natural coverings apparently enough. What should we do for our presentation? Ji-hee whispered to Ji-won. We keep it simple, Ji-won decided. We show them what humans really are, adaptable, determined, and unified despite our differences. The main arena was even more impressive up close. The ceiling was so high it seemed to disappear. The floor could change its shape and appearance. Right now, it looked like a map of the galaxy, with stars twinkling under their feet. Thousands of aliens sat in seats that ringed the arena. Some floated above their seats. Others merged with them in ways the humans couldn't understand. When your species is announced, you will walk to the center and present yourselves, Quillux explained. Then return to this waiting area. The High Commissioner will declare the games open, and the first events will begin this afternoon. One by one, alien teams entered the arena, to sounds that might have been cheers or applause. Some put on displays of strength or skill. Others sang or made patterns of light with their bodies. Finally, it was Earth's turn, representing the planet Earth, competing in the Galactic Games for the first time. The human delegation. A voice announced in many languages at once. Taking a deep breath, Ji-won led her team into the arena. The lights were bright, and the sound of alien voices was overwhelming. But they walked with their heads high, carrying Earth's flag. In the center of the arena, they stood together and bowed as one to all four directions, showing respect to all present. It was simple compared to the elaborate presentations of other species, but it was dignified and unified. As they returned to the waiting area, Ji-won noticed many aliens watching them with what seemed like curiosity or amusement. She knew what they were thinking. The humans were new, untested, probably weak. Let them think that, she whispered to her team. Tomorrow we show them what humans can really do. After the opening ceremony, the human team returned to their quarters to prepare for the first events. They were all nervous but trying not to show it. The first event is the endurance trial, Ji-won said, looking at the schedule on her tablet. Ji-hee, that's yours. Ji-hee nodded. She was the smallest person on the team, with lean muscles built for running long distances. On Earth, she had won races through deserts and mountains. But this would be different. The course changes environments. As you run, Ji-hee said, reading from her tablet, it can simulate conditions from any planet in the Confederation. That doesn't seem fair, Min-jae said. Some of these aliens evolved in those environments. We only know Earth. That's why we studied the rules all night, Ji-won reminded him. Remember the strategies we found. When it was time for the event, Quillux came to take Ji-hye to the starting area. The rest of the team followed to watch from a special section, For competitors, the endurance course was a long track that stretched around half the station. Parts of it were enclosed in clear tubes that could change their internal conditions. Ji-hee took her place at the starting line. There were 20 other competitors, one from each species that had entered this event. Some had 4 or 6 legs. One floated above the ground. Another had a body like a snake but moved like water flowing. Beside Ji-hee stood a tall, thin alien with a body like a praying mantis. It looked down at her with large, compound eyes. Primitive bipedal locomotion, it said in a clicking voice that the translation device in Ji-hee's ear turned into words. Your species will be eliminated by the first environmental shift. Ji-hee just smiled politely. She had been told not to respond to taunts or insults. Earth needed to appear dignified. A loud tone sounded, and the race began. Most of the aliens shot forward at incredible speeds. Ji-hee found herself near the back of the pack, but she didn't panic. This was a long race, and she knew how to pace herself. The first section of the course was set to standard station conditions. Ji-hee ran steadily, watching the aliens ahead of her. Some were already pulling far ahead, their bodies clearly made for speed. Then the course entered the first environmental tube. A sign flashed. High gravity section. As soon as Ji-hee entered the tube, she felt like her body weighed 3 times, normal. Her legs felt heavy and each step was harder than the last. But she had trained in weighted vests on Earth, running up mountains with heavy packs. She gritted her teeth and kept moving. Ahead of her, several aliens were struggling. Their bodies, designed for different conditions, moved slowly in the high gravity. Ji-hee passed 3 of them, keeping her pace steady. When she exited that section, she had moved up several positions. The next tube had a sign that read, Low Oxygen Environment. As she entered, Ji-hee immediately felt the difference. The air was thin, like being on a high mountain. Her lungs burned, and she wanted to gasp. But she had trained for this too, in the high mountains of Earth. She used the breathing technique she had developed, taking deep, controlled breaths. 2 more aliens fell behind her, their bodies needing more oxygen than was available. The race continued through more environments, extreme heat, then cold, then a section filled with water where they had to swim. In each one, some aliens excelled while others struggled. Ji-hee wasn't the fastest in any section, but she was consistent. She kept moving, never stopping, drawing on the endurance that humans had evolved over thousands of years of persistence hunting. By the final stretch, Ji-hee had moved into 3rd position. Ahead of her was a fish-like alien that had shot ahead in the water section, and the mantis alien that had insulted her at the start. The mantis was beginning to slow down. Its thin legs trembled with exhaustion. Ji-hee, feeling her own body near its limit, summoned her last reserves of energy. She had always been good at the final sprint, no matter how long the race. With a burst of speed, she passed the mantis alien just before the finish line, crossing in 2nd place. The fish-like creature had won, but Ji-hee had secured valuable points for Earth in their first event. She collapsed at the finish, gasping for air. Around her, medical staff of various species moved to check on the competitors. A small, round alien scanned Ji-hee with a handheld device. Elevated heart rate and respiration, but within normal parameters for your species, it said. Impressive performance. The mantis alien, who had finished 3rd, approached Ji-hee. Its posture seemed less arrogant now. How? It demanded. Your physical structure is inefficient. Your respiratory system is primitive. Ji-hee took a deep breath before answering. We evolved as persistence hunters, she explained. We're not the fastest, but we don't stop. On Earth, humans could chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. The mantis made a sound that might have been surprise or respect. It walked away, without another word. When Ji-hee rejoined her team, they surrounded her with excited congratulations. 2nd place. Min-jae lifted her off the ground in a bear hug. That's amazing. You've put us on the board, Ji-won said with a proud smile. The other species won't underestimate us now. That afternoon was Min-jae's event, the strength competition. They gathered in a different arena where massive blocks of crystal-like material sat on the floor. Each block glowed with a different color and seemed to weigh at least a ton. The challenge is to move these gravium blocks onto platforms of different heights, Quillox explained. The more blocks you place, and the higher the platforms, the more points you earn. Minjae looked at his competitors. Most were much larger than him, with multiple limbs or bodies that seemed built for lifting. One was so large it barely fit in the arena. "This doesn't look good," Hyun whispered to Jiwon. The smallest alien competitor was still twice Minjae's size. "He has a plan," Jiwon whispered back. "Remember what we found in the rules." When the event began, most competitors approached the task directly. They attempted to lift the blocks with brute strength, straining to raise them onto the platforms. Many succeeded with the lower platforms, but struggled with the higher ones. Minji took a different approach. Instead of trying to lift the blocks straight up, he examined their shape. Each was roughly rectangular but had uneven sides. He positioned himself at one end of a block and began to rock it back and forth, building momentum. With a sudden push, he tipped the block onto its end, then quickly moved to catch it as it fell toward the first platform. Using the block's own momentum and careful positioning, he guided it into place without having to lift its full weight. The crowd of alien spectators buzzed with surprise. This was not how the strength competition was usually approached. For the higher platforms, Minjae used a similar strategy. He would tip one block partially onto another, creating a ramp, then roll a third block up the ramp. It was slow work compared to the brute force of the larger aliens, but it was effective. By the end of the competition, Minjae had placed 6 blocks on various platforms. It wasn't enough to win. The massive alien champion had managed to place 8, but it was enough for 4th place, another unexpected result for the human team. As they left the arena, Jiwon noticed other alien competitors watching them with new interest. The whispers and pointing had changed tone. They were no longer dismissive. Now they were curious, even wary. 2 events, 2 strong finishes, Jiwon said as they gathered in their quarters that evening. "We've made our point. Humans can compete." "Tomorrow is your event, right?" Hyun asked her. "Tactical combat." Jiwon nodded, her face serious. "Yes, and I've been studying my opponent very carefully." She showed them a holographic image of a reptilian being with scales that shimmered like metal and a powerful tail. "This is Krazak. His species has natural armor and incredible reflexes." "How can you beat that?" Ji-hye asked, concerned. Jiwon's smile was small but confident. "The same way humans have always survived against stronger predators. We use our brains. We find weaknesses and we do what others don't expect." She turned to Hyun. "And sometimes we bend the rules without breaking them." The day of the strategy trial arrived. This was the final and most important event of the games. The large arena had been transformed. In the center was a round table with glowing patterns on its surface. Around it were seats for each team. Commander Kim led the human team to their assigned position. Across from them sat the Arctuvians, tall beings with pale blue skin and 6 fingers on each hand. They had won this event 3 times in a row. "The strategy trial is different from other events," Quillox explained. "Each team works together. It combines thinking, planning, and resource management." The rules were complex. Each team controlled a simulated star system with planets, resources, and units that represented ships or armies. The goal was to build the most successful civilization while dealing with challenges thrown at them by the game system. Unlike a normal board game, the simulation was fully 3-dimensional, hovering above the table in detailed holograms. When Kim touched their home planet, information appeared showing its resources and population. "Begin," announced the referee. The Arctuvians moved quickly, placing their units with practiced efficiency. They had a strategy they had used successfully, many times before. Their civilization expanded outward from their home planet, claiming resources and establishing defenses in a pattern that had proven unbeatable. The human team took a different approach. Instead of expanding evenly in all directions, they focused on specific areas. They left some planets completely untouched while putting extra resources into others. "What are the humans doing?" spectators whispered. "That's not how the game is played." 2 hours into the 6-hour competition, the game System introduced the first major challenge, a simulated natural disaster that affected multiple planets. The Arctuvians handled it by shifting resources from their outer colonies to protect their core worlds, a standard response. The humans did something unexpected. They abandoned 2 of their smaller colonies completely, moving all resources and population to their other worlds. This seemed like a mistake to many watching. "They're giving up territory," an alien observer noted. "The Arctuvians will claim it." But the Arctuvians didn't immediately move in. They were cautious, wondering if this was a trap. By the time they decided to claim the abandoned planets, the humans had strengthened their remaining colonies far beyond what would normally be possible. The next challenge was a simulated conflict with a non-player civilization. Again, the humans used unusual tactics. Instead of meeting the threat with direct force, they created a complex series of small outposts that redirected the enemy's attention while their main forces circled around, from behind. "These tactics make no sense," one of the Arctuvian players muttered. "They're not following any known strategic doctrine." Kim smiled slightly. "We call it asymmetric warfare. When you can't match your opponent's strength, you change the nature of the conflict." Hour after hour, the humans continued to surprise everyone with their unconventional choices. They sacrificed pieces that seemed valuable, set traps that looked like mistakes, and created complex systems that were hard to predict. Arctuvians, used to opponents who played by established strategies, found themselves increasingly confused and reactive. Their perfect record was being challenged by tactics they had never seen before. In the final hour, the biggest challenge appeared. A massive natural wormhole opened in the center of the game space, allowing for rapid travel between distant points, but also creating instability. The Arctuvians responded by trying to control the wormhole with military forces. It was the obvious move, one that any strategist would recognize. The humans ignored the wormhole entirely. "What are they doing?" The crowd was baffled. "The wormhole is the key to winning this phase." Instead, the humans built a network of smaller, limited transportation systems between their colonies. These were less powerful than the wormhole, but completely under their control. While the Arctuvians poured resources into controlling the central point, the humans created their own solution to the same problem. When the final scores were calculated, the result shocked everyone. The Arctuvians had won, but only by a small margin. The humans had placed second, far ahead of all other species in the competition. Combined with their earlier results, this gave Earth third place overall in the games, an unprecedented achievement. For a first-time competitor, the closing ceremony was held in the main arena, with all species gathered to celebrate. High Commissioner Xylock stood on a floating platform addressing the crowd. "The 457th Galactic Games has shown us once again that diversity brings strength to our Confederation," Xylock said, his silver skin gleaming under the lights. "Our newest members, the humans, have demonstrated that unconventional approaches have their place alongside traditional methods." The human team stood together, tired but proud. They had come to the Galactic Games as unknowns and would leave as respected competitors. After the ceremony, as they prepared to return to their quarters, something unexpected happened. Representatives from many different species approached them, some offering congratulations, others asking questions about human training methods or culture. A group of young aliens, barely more than children, gathered around G1. "Is it true that humans chase their prey until it falls from exhaustion?" one asked, eyes wide with wonder. "Some human cultures did that, yes," G1 answered. "We call it persistence hunting." "And you really use your teeth in combat?" another asked. "Even though they're not very sharp?" G1 laughed. "Only when we have to, but humans are good at using whatever works." Commander Kim found her surrounded by these curious young aliens. "You've made quite an impression," he said with a smile. "For better or worse, they won't forget us," G1 replied. When the crowd finally dispersed, Kim shared important news. "The Confederation Council wants to meet with us tomorrow. They're interested in fast-tracking Earth's admission." "Fast-tracking?" G1 asked. "What does that mean?" "It means they want Earth to join the Confederation sooner than originally planned. Kim explained. They say our unique perspective could be valuable. Unique perspective? Jiwon raised an eyebrow. That's diplomatic language for we're completely unpredictable and they'd rather have us as allies than potential problems, Kim said with a slight smile. That night, the Earth team attended a special banquet with representatives from many species. The atmosphere was different now. Where once they had been curiosities, now they were treated with respect, though perhaps also with a touch of caution. Park Hyun, standing with a drink in his hand, leaned close to Jiwon. Is it my imagination? He whispered. Or are they all standing slightly farther away from us than from each other? Jiwon looked around and realized he was right. Most aliens were keeping a bit of extra space between themselves and the humans. They're still not sure what else we might bite, she said, and they both laughed. Commander Kim joined them, looking pleased. The council meeting went well. They've offered Earth observer status in the Confederation, with a path to full membership within 5 years. That's faster than any species in the last 1,000 years. All because we asked if biting was allowed, Min-jae said, shaking his head in wonder. No, Kim corrected him. Because we showed them something they hadn't seen before. Humans may not be the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy, but we might be the most adaptable. We find solutions others don't see. As they raised their glasses in a toast to Earth's future in the galaxy, Jiwon thought about how far they had come. From first contact to respected competitors in just a few months. And this was only the beginning. The next games would have new rules. No biting allowed. But by then, humans would have found new ways to surprise the galaxy. That's what humans did best. After all, any species that asks if biting is allowed is probably capable of just about anything. The end. The combat arena was a large circle with transparent walls. The spectators could see inside from all angles. Jiwon stood in the center, trying to stay calm. Around her, thousands of aliens watched and waited. Her opponent entered from the other side. Krazak was tall, with green-gold scales covering his body. His tail was long and powerful, swinging behind him like a weapon. His eyes were yellow, with black slits down the middle like a snake's eyes. A voice spoke in many languages at once. The next event is tactical combat. Each competitor may use only natural biological features. No weapons allowed. Victory is achieved by forcing your opponent out of the ring or by submission. Jiwon and Krazak faced each other. Krazak smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Your species has no natural weapons, he said in a hissing voice. No claws, no significant teeth, no venom. Jiwon kept her face calm. We have other advantages. The starting tone sounded, and the fight began. Krazak moved first, faster than Jiwon expected. His clawed hand slashed through the air where her head had been a second before. She barely dodged in time, feeling the wind of his attack on her face. She countered with a kick to his midsection, using her best taekwondo technique. Her foot hit his scales hard, but Krazak barely seemed to notice. His scales were like armor. The crowd made sounds of excitement. Many had expected Krazak to win easily. A few seemed to be cheering for Jiwon, perhaps enjoying the idea of an underdog. Several minutes they circled each other. Krazak attacked again and again. Jiwon avoided most hits, but a few caught her on the arms and shoulders. Each one hurt, and she knew she couldn't take many more. Her own strikes seemed to do little against Krazak's armored body. She tried kicks and punches to different areas, looking for a weak spot. The scales on his neck seemed softer, but he protected that area well. In the stands, the human team watched with worry. She can't hurt him, Jihi said, her voice tight. His scales are too tough. She's looking for a weak point, Hyun said. She just needs to find it. Back in the arena, Jiwon was starting to tire. Krazak seemed as fresh as when they started. He knew he was winning and became more aggressive. Your species is weak, he taunted as he circled her. After this, perhaps humans will learn their place in the galaxy. Jiwon didn't answer. She was focusing, watching his movements, studying his fighting style. She noticed that when he attacked with his right arm, he always followed with his tail. When he used his left, he would step forward afterward. As she expected, Krazak attacked with his right. Jiwon not only dodged the arm, but was already moving when his tail whipped toward her. Instead of backing away, she moved in closer, inside his reach. Before Krazak could react, Jiwan had slipped behind him and jumped onto his back. She wrapped her arms and legs around him, locking her ankles together to hold on. Krazak roared and tried to throw her off. He spun and twisted, but Jiwan held tight. Her position gave her an advantage. He couldn't reach her with his claws or tail. Then, to the absolute shock of every alien watching, Jiwan did something unexpected. She found the spot where Krazak's neck met his shoulder, a place where the scales were smaller and thinner, and she bit down hard. A collective gasp echoed through the arena. Krazak howled and tried harder to dislodge her, but Jiwan held on like her life depended on it. Her teeth pressed into the softer scales, finding the nerve cluster she had identified from studying the species database. Krazak's arm went limp. He tried to reach her with his other arm, but she adjusted her bite, applying more pressure to the same nerve area. His legs began to wobble. With a final groan, Krazak fell to his knees. He tapped the ground 3 times, the universal signal for submission. The arena went completely silent. The referee, a small floating being with multiple eyes, seemed unsure what to do. It consulted a device in its tentacle, presumably checking the rules. After what seemed like forever, the referee raised Jiwan's hand. "The human wins by submission," the announcement came. The silence exploded into a cacophony of alien voices. Some were cheering, others protesting loudly. Jiwan stood in the center, breathing hard, her heart pounding in her chest. As she left the arena, medical staff approached to check her, but she waved them away. "I'm fine," she said. "Humans have strong jaws." Her team met her with wide eyes and open mouths. "You actually did it," Hyun said, his voice a mix of awe and disbelief. "You actually bit him." "It worked, didn't it?" Jiwan said, trying to sound confident despite her exhaustion. Before they could celebrate further, Quilox approached them, all 4 of his arms moving in what seemed like agitation. "There has been a formal protest," he said. "Several species claim that biting is uncivilized and barbaric." "Is it against the rules?" Jiwan asked, though she already knew the answer. Quilox hesitated. "No, it is not specifically prohibited. But it is unexpected. The Games Committee is meeting to review the match." The humans were escorted back to their quarters while the committee deliberated. They waited anxiously, unsure if Jiwan's victory would stand. "What happens if they disqualify you?" Jihye asked. "Then we know they don't play fair," Jiwan said. "We followed their rules exactly. They can't change them just because they don't like how we compete." Hours later, Quilox returned. His body language was hard to read, but his voice sounded surprised. "The committee has ruled," he said. "The victory stands." While many found the tactic distasteful, it did not violate any written rule. However, they are adding a new rule about biting for future games. The team cheered. Jiwan had won, and humans had made their mark on the Galactic Games forever. What they didn't know was how far that mark would spread. Throughout the Nexus Station and beyond, videos of the human bite technique were being shared across the Confederation's networks. Some species were horrified, calling humans primitive and dangerous. Others were fascinated, studying the technique and the strategy behind it. One thing was certain: no one was dismissing humans anymore. That evening, as the team celebrated in their quarters, they received an unexpected visitor. It was Commander Kim, who had just arrived on a diplomatic transport. "The United Planetary Council sent me to check on your progress," he explained. "They didn't expect such dramatic results." "Are they upset?" Jiwan asked, suddenly worried. Kim's face broke into a rare smile. "Upset? They're ecstatic. Earth's news is full of your victories, 3 events, 3 top 4 finishes, including a win. No new species has ever performed so well." "What about the biting incident?" Hyun asked. "That's why I'm really here," Kim said, his face turning serious. "The Confederation Council has requested a meeting with Earth representatives. Your performance has caught their attention in a big way." "Is that good or bad?" Minjae asked. "We're not sure," Kim admitted. But one thing is clear. Humans are no longer being ignored. Every species in the galaxy is watching us now. Jiwan looked at her team, pride swelling in her chest. Then let's give them something worth watching. We still have one more event. The strategy trial, Kim nodded. It's tomorrow and I'll be joining your team for it. It combines elements of chess, military tactics, and resource management. Against the champions from last games, Jihye added, the Arctuvians. They've won that event 3 times in a row, Hyun said. Kim's smile returned with a hint of mischief that reminded the team of Jiwan. Yes, but they've never faced humans before. And if there's one thing humans excel at, it's finding new ways to solve old problems. As they prepared for their final challenge, none of them realized just how much was riding on their performance. The galaxy was watching, and Earth's future place in the Confederation would be shaped by what happened next.